Good morning, listeners. My name is Leah Easley, and on today's podcast titled Do We Marry Our Parents?, airing March 10th, 2020 in Fulton, Missouri, I will be discussing human attachment and whether or not we grow up to marry our parents. I know, I'm not talking about actually marrying your mom or dad, but I think this is an interesting concept to think about when we relate it to the development of attachment styles from infancy to adulthood. Now, I want you to think back to your childhood days and how you thought adulthood would look through that child's perspective. One experience many of us likely have in common is who we thought we would grow up to marry one day. Children don't have the same perspective as adults, of course, and so many of us genuinely believed that we would one day grow up to marry our mom or our dad, not understanding the multitude of issues with the reality of this concept. That being said, if your parents are anything like mine, they tried to explain the issues in the simplest of terms by saying things like, well, you can't marry your dad because he's your dad, or you can't marry your mom because I'm already married to her, and so on. Putting aside all of the childhood why questions that would typically follow those answers for a moment, let's retrain our focus back to adulthood. What if it's not as simple as it first appears, and perhaps we do grow up to marry our parents, or rather, individuals very similar to our parents, be it similarities in attachment styles, personality traits, or simple familiarity? Are we more likely to develop an attachment towards those like our parents? It's a little creepy to think about at first, but hear me out. This is a phenomenon that is regularly mentioned across different media, be it in songs, movies, or literature, and is also mentioned in real-life conversations between friends and family. Oh, I want a man that is hardworking like my father, or, oh, I want a woman that is strong like my mother, and so on. So where does the determination of who we end up with one day originate? Well, let's backtrack for a moment. British psychiatrist John Bowlby theorized that mother-child proximity, along with sensitivity to the environment of evolutionary adaptiveness, are essential for genetic survival. In other words, Bowlby believed that it was the relationship between mother or caregiver and child, along with other childhood development experiences such as friendships in school and the like, that are what ultimately mold an individual's attachment type. That being said, I will explain the 3 attachment types to ensure we are all on the same page as we head deeper into the subject matter. According to the textbook Intimate Relationships, Issues, Theories, and Research by Ralph and Maureen Wang Erber, the attachment types in infancy and childhood are defined as follows. Secure attachment types form a mental representation of their caregivers as a secure place from which to explore the world and as a source of comfort during times of distress. Anxious attachment types form a generalized expectation that their caregivers cannot be reliably depended upon to provide comfort during times of distress. And finally, avoidant attachment types do not think of their caregivers as a source of comfort at all. So then, how do these attachment types transition into adult behavior, and is there any evidence to support the claim that people tend to choose partners similar to their parents? Well, we can find the answer to these questions by looking at attachment theory and the unconscious mental models we develop based on our earliest relationships, especially those with our primary caretakers, which are usually our mother or father. The relationships we then develop during our formative years are what help us create internalized scripts or working models of how relationships are supposed to function and influence how we are able to connect to others as adults. In fact, there is quite a bit of evidence that this is true from different psychology experts such as Bowlby, Fraley, Simpson, Collins, Tran, and Hayden from studies as far back as 1982 and as recently as 2007, and that's just from the experts I mentioned. It is also a well-known behavior in humans that we are drawn towards that which is familiar, which can be a good thing or a bad thing in the context of relationships. If you had a mother or father that were loving and reliable, and you grew up to have a secure attachment type, then it would be great for you to seek a partner that held those same qualities. On the other hand, if you grew up with a mother or father who was unreliable, unloving, or maybe even neglectful, then that which is familiar turns into a bit of a danger zone. If you partner up with an individual similar to your parents in that case, then it can, in essence, lead to a perpetuation of the beliefs you hold about yourself and others if you are already an anxious or avoidant attachment type of person, because that person's behavior would simply reinforce what you originally thought or expected from yourself and others. Additionally, we've all seen references to people ending up with someone like their parents in some shape or form, though, am I right? You can probably think of a couple examples right off the top of your head. If not, then no worries. I found some of the following through simple Google searches, and then I was lucky enough to come across an already compiled list on tvtropes.org that was titled Like Parent, Like Spouse. To begin, there's an old barbershop quartet song called I Want a Girl Just Like the Girl That Married Dear Old Dad. Pretty blatant, right? Well, then there's a Prince song titled When Doves Cry with lyrics that say, maybe I'm just like my father, too bold. Maybe you're just like my mother. She's never satisfied. That has a bit more of a negative connotation. Then there is blog post after blog post online from individuals of all kinds with some variation of the title, Why I Married a Man Like My Father, or Why My Mom is the Reason I Have High Standards, and so on. It can be seen in comic books such as Gotham City Sirens' Harley Quinn, where her father turns out to be a criminal in and out of prison, is smiling in almost every panel, and his modus operandi is making women feel young and appreciated before taking them for all they have. All of which carry pretty strong parallels to her typical love interest, the Joker. We can see it in movies like Back to the Future, where Marty's mother and his paternal great-great-grandmother are played by the same actress, thereby implying that the male McFlys have a similar taste in women. It is seen in literature in books like Harry Potter, whose love interest is Ginny Weasley. Well, Ginny is described as having a similar physical appearance and personality to Harry's mother. Then there's Ron and Hermione's relationship, which bears similarities to Ron's parents' relationship. More specifically, Hermione and Ron's mother both have no-nonsense personalities. It's seen on TV in many shows such as The Big Bang Theory, when Leonard's mother psychoanalyzes Penny and then goes on to tell Leonard he needs to wear the same cologne as Penny's father if he wants to get her in bed. Additionally, similar themes can be seen in many other well-known shows like House, How I Met Your Mother, Malcolm in the Middle, New Girl, Parks and Rec, Scrubs, Sex and the City, and even Friends. The theme is seen a few times in Friends, in fact. One instance where Chandler asks, Rachel, what is the deal with you and doctors anyway? Is your father a doctor? To which Rachel responds, yeah, why? I could go on, but I'll sum it up by saying we can see further examples represented in media, be it theater, video games, and even anime. If none of these feel relatable to you, then I think we can all at least agree that at some point we've heard people in anger say things like, you're just like your father, or you're acting just like your mother. Yeah, that one can be a bit rough. Oof. Changing gears, if we look beyond media and back to scientific claims, we needn't look further than good old Sigmund Freud, who took the claim that we end up with people like our parents to another level. He claimed that essentially men want to have sex with their mother, and women have a sense of competition with their mother for the affections of their father. The term for this is the Oedipus complex in males and the Electra complex in females. It's a bit more complicated than that bare bones description, but is relevant to my point here. In both cases, it involves children becoming increasingly attracted to their parents of the opposite sex, though for different reasons. So, what to believe? Well, with evidence to back the claim that we are indeed attracted to those like our parents in looks or personality across multiple psychological studies, or represented in real-life experiences of people ending up with someone very much like their parents, and a mountain of media that perpetuates the same claims that we do end up with someone like our parents, it's hard to deny that it just might be true. So, you tell me, do we, in fact, grow up to marry our parents? Or is it all just an old wives' tale?